And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Stables Media. I'm Taylor Phillips along with Ed Smith. Welcome back, Ed. Glad your power is back. Let's go over our opening statement. Ed, what is your opening statement on what we're going to talk about tonight?
If I were to have an opening statement other than thank goodness the power's back on, it would be that the showcase of how Cade Cunningham is developing his skills were on display, as well as another unpleasant surprise for the Pistons for the Summer League, as well as the Tigers with Miguel Cabrera's march to 500.
My opening statement, the new era of Cade Cunningham is starting to catch on fire for the Pistons. Jack Morris may no longer be a color commentator within the Tigers organization on Bally Sports Detroit especially. The Lions have a lot of work to do mentally. The Red Wings continue processing their Iser plan. Owen Power stays in school, and the college football AP Top 25 rankings poll is released without Michigan or Michigan State in it. And we'll talk more about that later on. But before we get started, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast for August 19, 2021 on Stables Media is sponsored by the Viget Sports Mobile App, where great fans cover. Download it from the Apple App Store or Google Play and sign up with the referral code STABLES with a capital S and the rest of the letters being lowercase, including the letter B in the middle, as in billionaire. Starting off with those Pistons, Cade Cunningham, like we mentioned before, 20 points scored by Cunningham against the Houston Rockets, and then 24 on 7 of 10 from three-point shooting distance against the New York Knicks before the Pistons gave him the rest, some much-needed rest for the rest of the Summer League campaign. The Pistons didn't make it to the Summer League Finals, but that's all just exhibition. But scouting Cade Cunningham and the rest of the Pistons alongside him, Cade Cunningham's been catching on fire, especially from three. He just got to work more inside the perimeter, but he's been a complete player nonetheless, Ed.
Yeah, you're seeing the versatility of his skills, like we mentioned and talked about even before the draft, showing that, yes, he can shoot from three. Very nice mid-range to outside jump shot. He's got a quick release, as I noted. I noticed on most, if not all, of his jump shots, the way he releases the ball doesn't give the defender that much time to catch up and potentially contest. That's good. That's a good little quirk that he has. So I'm sure it wasn't going to be. I knew for a feeling that things weren't going to be instant in terms of him showcasing his offense ability, because he was still working off some rust. As you remember, Cade, in the last few days of his college run at Oklahoma State, he suffered an ankle injury, had limited minutes in the tournament, and he only played one game. And Oak State was quickly gone after that. So knowing that, and he hasn't played since then, there was a little bit of rust that he had to work out, in my view, and you saw that in some spurts. But as more time moved on and as more games were being played, more minutes were being factored, Cade got into work. He quickly worked that rust off, got into rhythm, and like you mentioned, Taylor, with his jump shot being on full display, especially from beyond three. I also saw, though, I thought a willingness to get inside and get to the rim. I think you mentioned about doing inside the perimeter. To me, that was like one of his other preferred methods of how he was getting his offensive production, the way he was slashing and cutting to the rim, attacking defenders, not afraid to use his body, absorb contact, that sort of thing. That was on note, as I saw as well, for Cade's standpoint. And also, another thing that we talked about, which is doubly beneficial, we consider his length and his size, is his defense. His ability to already pick their pocket and get steals and get strips as someone is going in the lane or going to the rim is already impeccable. He's already got a great timing for that capability. Not quite Kawhi Leonard-esque, but it's getting there. I can already see that potential capability in him defensively. And with that, the old saying, defense leads the offense. Cade is fantastic on transition. That alone, what translates to more. And again, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from the young man so far.
Yeah, I am too. So the Pistons re-signed guards Frank Jackson for 2 years and Rodney McGruder 1 year worth the veteran minimum, and guard forward Hamidou Diallo to a 2-year, $10.4 million contract. So in that category, the Pistons are probably staying put, standing pat. rather, with those three players, other than those other acquisitions that they got, such as Kelly Olynyk and Trey Lyles.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're content and satisfied for now with their depth at the guard position. I think they got enough guards when you consider Killian and Cade, and then of course Diallo, and other players after that. They're quite set on guard. They even brought back Corey Joseph. So again, they're set on guard for now. They just got to make sure that their depth in terms of the forward and big man spots is well adequate enough. So that should be their main priority, a concern in terms of figuring out roster spots and depth pieces. But I will say, when transition to that, they may have found a gem that could help fix that problem somewhat, because my word, Luka Garza in this summer league has looked fantastic. I don't know if it's an issue of his weight loss playing off, because remember, he's lost about 26, 27, almost 30 pounds over the summer.
I heard about that.
He's I think that's factored into him, because what that means, better stamina, better cardio, which means more minutes for him to have a more of an impact in the game. No, his defensive footwork may not be there, but he makes up for that with his transition, which again is aided by his weight loss, his ability to get down in the paint, and seemingly ability to recognize what's in front of him, whether or not he's getting a post up or getting a double team. He showcased that he can be aware of what to do with the ball. So if he's being double teamed or he sees an open teammate, yeah, he can dish the bat. He can dish it off and be not a quintessential playmaker like a Nikola Jokic, for example, but know that he has more capabilities than just doing simple big man stuff. And when you factor in that, again, he's showcasing wide that he shot from 40% for three last season. When you look at some of his perimeter and outside jump shots, he's out here looking like Brook Lopez or something, the way he was firing out those threes. And, I'll admit, even with a quirky, funky-looking jump shot, it works for him. In some cases he's out there doing fadeaways like he's dirt for some reason. But, hey, I'm not going to complain the ball's going in the net. So when you factor in that he's showcasing what you would consider a modern-day stretch big skills, the mid-range to outside jump shot, ability to get inside, and a little bit of playmaking capabilities. To me, it's not a surprise that he got the two-way deal contract from the Pistons. And as a sign to me, the way if he keeps this up, he is going to be earning himself some meaningful minutes on the main roster. I know he'll probably get some time at the G League to start, but the way he's playing, he'll be not only getting a call-up before the end of the year, he'll be getting some meaningful playing time before the end of the year as well, if not early next year.
Can't wait to see them take action on the court. So that's Pistons. Shifting over to Tigers. Hall of Fame pitcher and color commentator Jack Morris, as we heard earlier this week, was suspended indefinitely for using a racial accent about Angels outfielder and pitcher Shohei Ohtani, of all people. Now, Bally Sports said he would undergo bias training, but just like Mario Impemba and Rod Allen, it's likely that Jack Morris may be let go, and other talents such as Dan Petrie and Kirk Gibson may take the mic. Even Craig Monroe may serve as a color commentator, because he's had at least a little bit of experience as a color commentator in the booth with Matt Shepard. But Jack Morris, shame, man.
Yeah, it was just a case of, and trust me, I've heard the clip myself. I've seen the context of it. It's just, if you're going to go that route, if you're going to call it some type of defensive joke or comedy, that's not the way to do it. It was just flat out not even worth the effort to go that far. And obviously it was offensive. Like, it was just, come on, like you're trying to get past that stigma of that stereotype of what Shohei Ohtani represents to his people, to his culture, and you want to bring up that type of stereotype. Like, come on, man, this is not cool. He's way better than that. But I'll give this. Ohtani himself said he wasn't offended per se, but still, one man can only speak for himself, and I think others still felt that the gesture by Morris itself was unnecessary. Now, do I think he's going to be fired? That's hard to say. I think because you got to look at this from a code of conduct / business perspective of what the corporation may be receiving. Like, this is essentially a first time offense for him. And the fact that he immediately did own up to it and apologize later that same broadcast, that same telecast, shows that to them, hey, he's got some culpability. Again, I'm just only giving you devil's advocate from their perspective, what they might thinking. And it wouldn't surprise me to say, hey, notice they didn't say they're letting him go or future endeavors. They're saying suspended indefinitely. So what?
For now.
It wouldn't right. So it wouldn't surprise me. Let's say he misses a week or two or so, and does take this training or whatever that they want him to do. And when he comes back, he gives another full statement, just like he did when he made his apology. And there, you do your best to move on from that as much as possible with lessons learned, and a better understanding of what to do and what not to do. It's just simple professionalism, guys. It's not that hard.
Right. Got to be careful because the FCC can crack down on things like that. Nowadays.
You saw what Tom Brenneman did. Now his was much more severe and way more egregious, and flat out more disgusting in that regard, considering he used an actual slur and literally had to step down from the booth that same game. So, and we haven't heard from him since. So I think his career is example. His lesson or his experience will be one example that you would think Jack Morris would try his best not to replicate or follow, but I guess he couldn't help himself here.
Yeah, to be more fair and accurate, using a slur, a discriminatory slur, is way more severe than using an accent, a foreign accent of some sort. I know they're both discriminatory, but we know the severity of each action or whatever it is. So now that that's out of the way, the Tigers, as we delve into our What's Your Grade segment, acquired catcher Dustin Garneau in a trade from the Colorado Rockies for cash considerations. Ed, what is your grade on Dustin Garneau?
What's the position that he plays at?
Catcher.
I give that a C plus only for the fact it's depth purposes. Let's not forget that Jake Rogers had to be recently moved to the 60-day IL, so he's essentially done for the rest of the season. You need a backup spot to Eric Haas. So again, that's pretty much that was done as an insurance policy for depth purposes at your catcher spot. So for that, I'll give it a C plus. We still need to do what you had to do.
Yep, C plus it is. And then we got Tigers' top prospects, Spencer Torkelson, Riley Greene, and Ryan Kreidler, all being promoted from the AA Erie Seawolves to the AAA Toledo Mud Hens. Now, it's still going to take more time and development before they can all reach the majors, each and every one of them at least, but they're working their way up.
For sure. If I were to give that a grade, I'd give it a B, borderline B plus, especially in the case of Torkelson. I happened to catch notice, what was it, might have been last Friday night or whether, of the game that he had earlier that day. I think it was that doubleheader where he went a combined 7 for 7. He hit 3 home runs. He is showcasing quite a pop in his bat already. And once he gets up here, he, as well as other players that he's developed a good chemistry with down in the minors, could be a very good wrecking crew of sorts for this team in terms of an offensive standpoint and a youth standpoint. So very quite impressed. I've already liked what I saw from guys like Casey Mize. If Torkelson can showcase what he's doing down here on a level up here, yeah, I'm definitely excited for sure for his future and his potential. So B, borderline B plus would be my grade for that.
I'll give it a B plus as well. So that's Tigers. Shifting on to Lions. First off, Calvin Megatron Johnson's Hall of Fame speech. Former Lions wide receiver Calvin Johnson was inducted to the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, indeed. Of course, as we heard a while ago, He didn't mention the Lions in his speech, but he said it was an honor and a privilege to play for them. He thanked his teammates for giving him a chance and whatnot. Ed, what are your thoughts on his speech?
I think my thoughts on that was that he said what he needed to say because, again, he at least acknowledged the team and the franchise that he played for. That showcases that, yeah, it was nice of him to do that. We understand the issues that are going on currently at place between the team and the organization itself. But it's clear that whatever problems or Calvin or issues Calvin may have, it's only with that aspect of the team. He mentioned before he appreciated his teammates. He definitely, for sure, appreciated the fans. He mentioned to give them a specific and direct shout out. Apologize if you hear a siren in the background. My window's open. I don't want to be hot here. Anyway, I digress. Calvin made sure to mention the city of Detroit, and I think that alone, amongst other things, lets me know that, hey, he still had great appreciation for his time as a player. He loved playing here. He loved playing for his teammates, and he loved playing with the fans. He just felt, though, that the front office and management did not show the proper appreciation for his career and the way he felt was necessary. So he took matters into his own hands, and he retired. And now things have been fractured, if you want to say that, ever since. But hey, to me, that's up to the team and organization to figure that out. If Indianapolis can do it right with Andrew Luck, why can't the Lions do it right with Calvin Johnson? But anyway, that's besides the point. The main factor, the main importance focus should be the fact that, hey, one of our own got into the Hall of Fame. And not only did he do it, he did it on the very first try. So congrats to Calvin, first ballot Hall of Famer, well-deserved. What else needs to be said other than what he was one of the greatest, if not arguably the greatest wide receiver, not just of all time, but certainly of this modern era and generation.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Calvin Johnson and the Lions were, Calvin Johnson and the Lions were a force when they were at least okay, maybe good. Still didn't manage to win a playoff game, but Calvin was one of the best receivers Detroit had. Simple as that. Speaking of the Lions, they signed Philadelphia Eagles slot cornerback Nickell Robey-Coleman last week and waived safety D'Angelo Amos to make room. Ed, what is your grade on Nickell Robey-Coleman? Now, we did research on that. The pass is defended off the air and such.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your grade?
I'll give this one a B minus. I noticed his numbers of what he's done before over the past 2 years with teams such as the Eagles and the Rams. He was with the Eagles last year. I think, believe me, correct me if I'm wrong, when he played with the Rams, he was the one that they forgot to throw the flag on when they did that, when he did the pass interference in the NFC Championship game against the Saints. But even still, he has showcased the ability to not only be effective in causing takeaways and turnovers. He's got a penchant for forcing fumbles and getting fumble recoveries. He's got also ability to score as well with 2 defensive touchdowns in his career. So also, though, this is a matter of finding someone who can mesh well, I think, with Jeff Okudah in that secondary. Secondary was frankly one of their many, many holes last year. And while I appreciate them showing appreciation and love for the trenches and the defensive line, they understand and are aware that, hey, we still got to get better at the secondary. So this direction and route that they went, and we'll see how it works out. But for now, I'll give it a B minus.
B minus it is, with results to show later on. And finally, stepping away from the segment, Lions cornerback Alex Brown was facing 4 charges, 2 for driving under the influence and 2 for reckless driving for injuring teammate tight end Charlie Taumoepeau in a car accident. Both players were waived. Just tragedy to see those 2 go out like that. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's another stark lesson of what you can and cannot and frankly should not be doing behind the wheel under any capacity. It's a miracle that neither man was killed, but still action had to be taking place. And frankly, you know, the Lions were left with no other choice. And you can't have someone be completely absolved here because it wasn't in this case. So they did the right thing in cutting both players. In terms of Brown, again, I'm just glad he didn't kill somebody or at least injure himself worse than what he already did. And I think with his spot being opened up, that's probably one of the reasons that led to the signing of Robey-Coleman as well. So you got to factor that in to consideration.
Yep. And then the Lions, after their first preseason game, which we'll get to next, they've released veteran long snapper Don Muhlbach after 17 seasons with the team. Don Muhlbach, been a long time coming. He had to go.
Yeah, I mean, you can't play there. You can't. Nothing can last forever, and I think this was the right time for them to do that. So, nothing personal. I think it was just done from a pure business perspective about what this team needs moving forward, and you can't rely too much on the past, so to speak, of yesterday to move forward of what you want to do in the future. So, this was just one reminder of that.
And now the preseason game, they lost 16-15, lost to the Buffalo Bills last Friday night. Jared Goff was 7 of 9 passing for 56 passing yards in the first quarter. No touchdowns, but grading Penei Sewell, it was a B by the NFL. But
yeah. I can agree with that because
he got off to a bit of a slow start, understandably, but he started to develop more.
Especially in the running game.
Yep. Yeah, the running game protected the running backs and the quarterback. Even Tim Boyle, their backup quarterback, who inevitably and clearly struggled.
Yeah, it definitely showcases the weakness that the Lions still have in terms of quality backup quarterback. Quality backup spot depth at the quarterback position. You know, got to remember, like whenever Stafford did go down with injury last year, it was almost a given that this team is not going to do anything but try to hopefully not get blown out this week because they did not have that proper adequate replacement at the ready. Guys like David Blau were not and are not going to cut it. I think they even tried Chase Daniel for a little bit, but then he got let go. So it showcases what they still need to improve on from that aspect. But in terms of Jared Goff himself, I actually liked what he did. I know he had a bit of a shaky start with his first drive, but he was able to shake that off, which you can admire about his tenacity and what he brings and some of his intangibles. And the fact that he was able to work around that, find his routes, find his players, get guys involved, make very good passes, and had his team in a position to potentially get some points. So that's essentially his role in a nutshell. Now, there's going to be times where he's going to be dependent on being more assertive and be more direct and responsible for what this offense does. He's got to take some shots, got to take some risks the way Stafford would have done. Can't be safe, doing dinking and dunking all around the field all day. I heard he's and I've seen how very good he can be at play action. So we didn't get to see much of that in this game, but you would think and expect somewhere down the line later in the season that would come into play as well. But yeah, what I was just intrigued for with these preseason games, I don't really care about the result, so it's not even where you can make mention, they lost on the last second field goal, but the main priority of these preseason games is to see how the main guy is going to look in terms of implementing the system, this new system that this regime and coaching staff is going to want to impose upon everyone. And number two, seeing, those last few guys, those last minute roster cuts, who's going to earn this spot, who's got what it takes to go up the depth chart, who has, within them to reach for that brass ring, so to speak, and earn, that last man spot on this roster. So you look at that as well. And I think Dan Campbell is noting that and taking each of these games in stride because, again, my Frank himself mentioned, you wipe the slate clean when it's all said and done, and now the real work begins. But still, this is essentially your prep lessons, if you want to use a school terminology of getting ready for your exam. This is your prep work. This is your prep lessons, your prep quizzes. And for Dan Campbell, little by little, the training wheels are going to be taken off, and he's going to be fully allowed to ride his bike. And we'll see what happens once the wheels come off.
And the Lions will continue to try to develop their players as they head to Heinz Field to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers this Saturday at 7:30 on your local Fox affiliate. That's Lions. Now the Red Wings. They buy out their final year, of forward Franz Nielsen's contract, which was worth $5.25 million in a cap hit. He will now have a $4.25 million cap hit in the upcoming season, 2021 to 2022, and then $500,000 in the 2022-2023 season. But Franz Nielsen, they bought him out. He's no longer on the team, period.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't even going to be willing to wait till the trade deadline. They're like, okay, we're probably not going to get as much of a return that we would want to, so we'll just cut our losses right here. And the fact they do have some cap space, or have built up some cap space as of late, they could afford to take a hit on this. So not a surprise. Things need to be done, and they were done.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then, speaking of hockey, aside from the Red Wings, though, Buffalo Sabres top overall pick defenseman Owen Power stays at the University of Michigan to play for the Wolverines and stay in school and graduate before playing within the Sabres organization. He could play in the NHL after he finishes, or he can play in one of the top farm affiliates. It always depends on his development level.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that?
It does. I think it's pretty cool, to be honest, that the NHL has a system of where, you can allow something like this. I really haven't seen something like this being shown in any of the major sports, other major four sports, since when Larry Bird got drafted by the Celtics, but it was assured that he could still stay in school for one more year. That's like the closest instance of an example I could think of, and that was literally 40 years ago. So, that's a quite unique of a rule to see. But in terms of Owen Power, with his, I guess, for his own personal needs for development, and also probably wanting to do things on a higher note in terms of competing for a national championship, that could also play into effect, as well as potentially getting his degree as well. So all that it was probably a combining factor into him making this decision, not the fact that, oh, God, I got to go play in Buffalo. That could have been at the back of his mind when he made this. We don't know for certain.
No, we don't. So that's college hockey. Now to college football. The AP Top 25 rankings poll was released. Both Michigan and Michigan State are not in it. They still have a lot of work to do before they can reach that. So Michigan finished 2-4. MSU finished 2-5. I know the COVID-19 stuff, but still, those are still bad records.
Awful.
You can't earn like that.
Yeah, absolutely awful, especially with the hype and build that you put and stock that you put into yourselves year after year. And I'm talking about Michigan from the standpoint of Jim Harbaugh, quite beyond or below of what the expectations were. Even if you weren't expected to beat Ohio State, which they wouldn't have, but still, you want to show more better effort and output than that. I don't know what the hell that was. So that definitely played a factor into them starting the season unranked. They're gonna have to earn their spot, and to me, it's just a matter of, even if you don't win the Big Ten, what can you do against Ohio State? That's just, to me. I'll be honest. I really could give a crap less about any other games on the schedule. What are you gonna do against Ohio State? That's all. That's my main tunnel vision focus at this point. What in the hell are you gonna do against Ohio State? Because we've seen the same thing happen year after year after year, like it's Groundhog Day, and I'm tired of it. I wanted to stop.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a no-brainer. The Wolverines are playing at home, by the way, against those Buckeyes. I'm still not sure if they'll they'll beat them. They have a new defensive coordinator. Forgot his name, but anyway, at least Don Brown's gone already. But
Yeah,
still, I have my
they're gonna
doubts.
need more than that. They're gonna need more than that. I'll
Yeah,
just say that.
yeah. The Buckeyes are still an elite team. Period. Michigan's nowhere near that. Well, for MSU, just a lot of work to do with Mel Tucker. On the other hand, just to make sure all the bases are covered.
Yeah, he's coming into his own. He's still basically in his honeymoon phase. He got good rapport for another year with the fans, just based on the fact that he beat Michigan last year. So they're good on that front.
Yep. We'll see what happens. We'll see how they fare, the Michigan State Spartans, in 2021. So that's everything we've discussed. Now, what we've learned about what we've discussed. Ed, you go first.
What I've learned is that Miguel Cabrera needs to take a little bit of this pressure off of himself. I understand the need and the want of wanting to get this ordeal, this milestone over with, but he needs to, not force it whenever he comes up to the plate every single time. Let everything come to him. As for the Pistons, we know what to expect and what we're seeing of Cade Cunningham, but I'm really more so happy for what I'm seeing from Luka Garza. If things pan out for the way that I expect and hope for it to pan out, and Troy Weaver got himself an absolute steal in this draft, and that's not surprising considering what he did and was able to do in Oklahoma City.
Yep. Before I share what I've learned, Dave Campbell on Twitter at DWC462 commented, going to take the biggest miracle ever for Michigan to beat OSU this year. Yep. And I just discussed that.
You're not lying.
Nope. He definitely isn't. What I've learned, I've heard from, I read it in a column on a newspaper from the Cadillac News, from Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press, via the Detroit Free Press. He's criticizing the fans. He's calling out the Lions fans for criticizing Dan Campbell's clock management in the end of the game in a 16-15 loss against the Buffalo Bills. He told them to get real and told them it's the preseason. Just because preseason games don't count doesn't mean they don't matter. They do, because we scout not only the players, but how coaches manage the game clock. And it could carry over to the regular season. That's what we've learned. I put this out there on social media over and over and over again in the past. And I'm still going to put it out there. And fans and media, the lazy media, especially in the city of Detroit, they still don't take that seriously. I mean, come on. If you're gonna analyze, do it thoroughly, even in preseason, because it's going to carry on to the regular season. It might actually, at least. That's what I've learned. So, again, this episode for August 19th, 2021 of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast is sponsored by the Viget Sports mobile app, where great fans cover. Download it from the Apple App Store or Google Play and sign up with a referral code STABLES with a capital S and the rest of the letters being lowercase, including the letter B in the middle, as in billionaire. Also, a shout out to the crew at Cali Tickets for sponsoring the Detroit Sports Rag, which the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast always contributes to. First, go to calitickets.com to purchase a ticket to a game, movie, or concert of your choice. So let me fix something here and then show it again. calitickets.com. Proud sponsor of the Detroit Sports Rag, which we contribute to, as always, first, whenever needed. Ed, excellent job as always. Our next episode, I think, next Wednesday, because Frank is available next Wednesday.
All right, no problem.
Next Wednesday at 9. So until then, on behalf of Frank Vashner, Fred Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips signing off. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and Ed Smith on Twitter and Instagram at EdSmith313. And follow our show on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth, and like it on Facebook as the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Thanks very much for listening, watching, downloading, and sharing. And remember, the truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Power to the people. hit him with a high, and we rest our case, stay out of trouble.